short years, you've taken on the spirit of Brooklyn.
That's very gratifying, Miss Brewster.
You see, living here next to the church all our lives, we've seen so many ministers come and go. The spirit of Brooklyn, we always say, is friendliness, and your sermons are not so much sermons as they are friendly talks.
Personally, I've always enjoyed my talks with Cardinal Gibbons. Or have I met him yet?
No, dear, not yet. Are the biscuits good?
Fun.
Oh, won't you have another biscuit, Dr. Harper?
Oh, no thank you. I'm afraid I'll have no appetite for dinner now. I always have too many of your biscuits just to taste that lovely jam.
Oh, but you haven't tried the Prince. We always put a little apple in with it to take the tartness out.
No thank you.
Oh, we'll send you over a jar.
No, you keep it here so I can be sure of having your biscuits with it.
Well, I do hope they don't make us use that imitation flour again. What with this war trouble and all, it may not be very charitable of me, but I've almost come to the conclusion that this Mr. Hitler isn't a Christian.
If only Europe were on another planet.
Europe, sir?
Yes, Teddy.
Point your gun the other way.
Gun?
To the west. There's your danger. There's your enemy. Japan!
Yes, of course, Teddy.
Teddy?
No, Aunt Abby. Not so much talk about Europe and more about the canal.
Let's not talk about war then. Will you have another cup of tea, dear?
No, thank you, Aunt Abby.
Dr. Harper?
No, thank you. Yes, Miss Abby, it seems that war and violence are far removed from these surroundings.
It is peaceful here, isn't it?
Peaceful, yes. The virtues of another day, they're all here in this house. Gentle virtues that went away with candlelight and good manners and low taxes.
It's one of the oldest houses in Brooklyn. It's just as it was when Grandfather Brewster built and furnished it, except for the electricity. Use it as little as possible. It was Mortimer who persuaded us to put it in.
Yes, I can understand that. Your nephew Mortimer seems to live only by electric light.
Well, the poor boy has to work so late. I understand it's Elaine he's taking to the theater with him tonight. Oh, Teddy, your brother Mortimer will be here a little later tonight.
Delighted!
We're so glad it's Elaine Mortimer takes to the theater with him.
Well, it certainly is a new experience for me to wait up till 3 in the morning to have my daughter brought home.
Dr. Harper, I hope you don't disapprove of Mortimer.
Well,
we'd feel so guilty if you did. Sister Martha and I mean, since it was here in our home that your daughter met Mortimer.
Yes, I know, and so I'll say immediately that I do believe Mortimer himself to be quite a worthy gentleman. But I must also admit that I've watched the growing intimacy between him and my daughter with some trepidation. For one reason, Miss Abby.
You mean his stomach, Dr. Harper?
Stomach?
His dyspepsia. Oh, he's bothered with it so
No, Miss Abby, I'll be frank with you. I'm talking about your nephew's unfortunate connection with the theater.
The theater? Oh, no, Dr. Harper.
Yes.
Mortimer writes for a New York newspaper.
Yes, Miss Abby, I know, but a dramatic critic is constantly exposed to the theater, and I don't doubt but what some of them do develop an interest in it.
Well, not Mortimer. You need have no fear of that. Why, Mortimer hates the theater.
Really?
Oh, yes, he writes awful things about the theater, but you can't blame him, poor boy. He was so happy writing about real estate, which he really knew something about. And then they just made him take this terrible night position.
My.
But, as he says, the theater can't last much longer anyway, and in the meantime, it's a living. Yes, I think if we give the theater another year or two, perhaps. Who do you suppose that is? No, thank you, Teddy. I'll go. Oh, come in, Miss Brophy.
Hello, Miss Brewster.
How are you, Miss Klein?
Very well, Miss Brewster.
what news have you brought me?
Colonel, we have nothing to report.
Splendid. Thank you, gentlemen. At ease.
You know Dr. Harper.
Sure. Hello, Dr. Harper. We've come for the toys for the Christmas fund.
Oh, yes.
That's a splendid work you officers do, fixing up discarded toys to give poor children a happier Christmas.
Gives us something to do when we have to sit around the station. You get tired of playing cards when you start cleaning your gun, and before you know it, you've shot yourself in the foot.
Well, Teddy, why don't you go up to your Aunt Martha's room and get that big box of toys from underneath her bed?
Dr. Harper?
Pneumonia.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Shut!
He's doing much better now. A little weak still. I'm going to get you some beef broth to take to him. You don't have to do that, Miss Abby. You've done so much for him already. Oh, he made it this morning. Sister Martha is taking some to poor Mr. Vininsky right now. It won't be a minute. Sit down and be comfortable, all of you. She really shouldn't go to all that trouble.
Oh, listen. Try to stop her or sister from doing something nice, and for what? They don't even care how you vote.
Well, when I first got my call to Brooklyn and moved next door, my wife was very ill. When she died, and for months before, if I know what pure kindness and absolute generosity are, it's because I've known the Brewster sisters.
But I'd have to call a cabinet meeting to get the release of those supplies.
He used to do that in the middle of the night. Neighbors raise Cain with us. Seems they're a little afraid of him anyway.
I'm sure he's quite harmless.
Don't suppose he does think he's Teddy Roosevelt. There are worse people he could think he was.
It's a darn shame. Nice family like this hatching a cuckoo.
Well, Teddy's father, their brother, I've heard he was kind of a genius. And their brother, Teddy's grandfather, seems to me I've heard he was a little crazy too.
Yeah, crazy like a fox. He made $1 million.
Here in Brooklyn?
Mm-hmm. Patent medicine. Old Sergeant Edwards remembers him. He was a kind of a quack of some sort. Used the house here as a sort of a clinic. Tried him out on people.
Yeah, and I heard he used to make mistakes occasionally too.
Department never bothered him much about it though, because he was handy on autopsies sometimes, especially in poison cases.
Well, whatever he did, he left his daughters fixed for life. Thank God for that.
Well, I'm aware of their many charities.
You don't know the tenth of it. When I was with the Missing Persons Bureau, we were trying to trace down that old man that we never could find. Do you know there's a renting agency that's got this house on its list for furnished rooms? They don't rent rooms. They don't. But I can bet you that anyone who comes looking for a room probably leaves with a good meal and a few dollars in their kick.
It's just their way of digging up people to do some good to.
Well, isn't this nice?
Oh, hello, Miss Brewster.
Hello, Miss Brophy. Dr. Harper, Miss Klein.
Come for the toys.
Oh yes, Teddy's Army and Navy. They wear out. They're right upstairs.
Colonel's upstairs after them. Seems the cabinet had to okay it.
Oh yes. I hope Mr. Brophy's better.
Oh, he's doing just fine, man. Your sister's in the kitchen getting some soup for me to take to him.
Oh yes, we made it this morning. I just took some to a poor old man who broke ever so many bones.
Oh, you're back, Martha. How was Mr. Vininsky?
Well, dear, it's pretty serious, I'm afraid. The doctor was there. They're going to amputate in the morning.
Can we be present?
No. I asked, but it's against the rules of the hospital.
Well, you couldn't be of any service, and you must spare yourself something.
Here's the beef broth, Miss Brophy. Be sure it's good and hot. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, perfect. That O'Malley kid is nuts about soldiers.
That's General Miles. I've retired him. What's this? The Oregon?
Teddy?
But the Oregon goes to Australia.
Teddy, dear, put it back.
No, already given my word to fighting Bob Evans.
But Teddy...
Oh, what does it matter what kid gets it? Bobby Evans, Izzy Coleman's will run along, man. Thank you so much.
Not
Oh, I better get going as well.
Before you go, Dr. Harper...
Charge! Charge the blockhouse!
The blockhouse?
The stairs are always San Juan Hill.
Have you ladies ever tried to convince your nephew that he isn't Teddy Roosevelt?
Oh no, he's so happy being Teddy Roosevelt.
Once, remember, Martha? We thought if we could convince him to be George Washington for a day that it might be a change.
Oh, but he stayed under his bed for days and just wouldn't be anybody at all.
And we'd so much rather he be Mr. Roosevelt than nobody.
Well, if he's happy, and more importantly, if you're happy, you'll see that he signs these.
What are they?
Dr. Harper has made all arrangements for Teddy to go to the Happy Dale Sanitarium once we pass on.
Why should he sign any papers now?
Well, if you pass on suddenly, Teddy might not commit himself, which would prove to be a messy legal situation. Mr. Witherspoon knows the...
Mr. Witherspoon?
He's the superintendent of Happydale.
Dr. Harper has arranged for him to come tomorrow or the next day to meet Teddy.
I better go before Elaine comes here looking for me.
Give our love to Elaine. And Dr. Harper, please don't think harshly of Mortimer because he's a dramatic critic. Somebody has to do those things.
Did you just have tea? Isn't it rather late?
Yes, and dinner is going to be late too.
So, why?
Teddy! Good news. You're going down to Panama and dig another log for the canal.
Delighted! That's bully, just bully! I shall prepare it once for their journey. Judge!
Abby, while I was out.
Yes, dear, I just couldn't wait for you. I didn't know when you'd be back, and Dr. Harper was coming.
But all by yourself.
Oh, I got along fine.
I'll run right downstairs and see.
Oh, no, there wasn't any time, and I was all alone.
Well,
Martha, just look in the window seat. Oh, it's Elaine. Oh, come in, dear.
Good afternoon, Miss Abby. Good afternoon, Miss Martha. I thought Father was here.
he just this minute left. Didn't you meet him?
Well, I took a short cut through the cemetery. Mortimer hasn't come yet.
No, dear.
He asked me to wait or meet him here. Do you mind if I wait?
Not at all.
Why don't you sit down, dear?
But we really must speak to Mortimer about doing this to you.
Doing what?
Well, he was brought up to know better. When a gentleman is taking a young lady out, he should call for her at her house.
Oh, there's something about calling for a girl at a parsonage that discourages any man who doesn't, well, embroider.
Oh, he's done this too often. We're going to speak to him.
Oh, please don't. There's something about young men whose idea of a nightlife is to take me to a prayer meeting. It's not nice to go to the theater almost every night of my life.
Well, yes, it's comforting for us, too, because if Mortimer has to see some of those plays he has to see, well, at least he's sitting next to a minister's daughter.
Oh, Elaine, what must you think of us not having tea cleared away by this time?
Now, don't do a thing in the kitchen until Mortimer comes, and then I'll help you. Mortimer should be back any minute now.
Well, Father should have found it strange not to see me at home. I'd better run over and say goodnight.
It's a shame you missed him.
If Mortimer comes, tell him I'll be back in a minute. Oh, hello, Mort.
Hello, Elaine. Hello, Aunt Martha.
Oh, Abby, Mortimer's here!
Were you going somewhere?
I was just going to tell Father not to wait up for me tonight.
I didn't know that was still being done. Even in Brooklyn.
Mortimer!
Hello, Aunt Abby.
Oh, how are you, dear?
All right, and you look well. You haven't changed much since yesterday.
My goodness, it was just yesterday, wasn't it? Well, we're seeing a great deal of you lately. Oh, sit down, sit down.
Haven't we something to do in the kitchen? Huh? You know, the tea things.
Oh, yes, the tea things. Well, you two just make yourselves at home.
Just make yourselves at home.
Well, can't you take a hint?
No, that was pretty obvious. A lack of ingredients, just I should say.
Yes, that's exactly what you'd say.
Where do you want to go to dinner?
I don't care, I'm not very hungry.
Well, I just had breakfast. Suppose we wait until after the show to eat?
That'll make it pretty late, won't it?
Not with the little stinker we're seeing tonight. From what I heard, we'll be at Blake's by 10 o'clock.
You'd ought to be fair to those plays.
Are those plays ever fair to me?
I've never seen you walk out on a musical before.
That musical isn't opening tonight.
No.
Darling, you'll have to learn the rules. With the musical, there are always 4 postponements and 3 changes of title. They liked it in New Haven, but it needs a lot of work.
Oh, I was hoping it was a musical.
You have such a light mind.
Not a bit. Musicals have so much of a humanizing effect on you. After a serious play, we join the proletariat, and I hear a lecture about drama. After a musical, you take me home in a taxi and make a few passes.
Darling, that's a very inaccurate piece of reporting.
Now, I will admit that after a first Burnham play, you told me I had authentic beauty. And that's a hell of a thing to say to a girl. But it wasn't until after our first musical that you told me I had next legs. And I have, too.
Daughter, you seem to know a lot about life. Where'd you learn it?
The choir loft.
Sometime I'll explain that to you, darling. The close connection between eroticism and religion.
Religion never gets as high as the choir loft.
I've never been able to rationalize it.
What?
Am I falling in love with a girl from Brooklyn?
Falling in love. You're not stooping to that articulate, are you?
The only way to regain my self-respect is to keep you in New York.
Did you say keep?
No, I've come to the conclusion that you're holding out for the legalities.
I can afford to be a good girl for quite some years yet.
And I can't wait that long. Or can we get married in a hurry? Let's say tonight?
I'm sure Father would insist on officiating.
God, your father can make even the marriage service sound pedestrian.
You're not by any chance writing a review of it, are you?
Forgive me, darling, it's an occupational disease. I may give that play tonight a good notice.
Don't pretend you love me that much.
Be sure to tell your father not to wait up tonight.
Maybe I'd better tell him to wait up.
I'll telephone Winchell to publish the banns.
Nevertheless.
All right, everything formal and legal. But no later than next month.
Darling. I'll talk it over with Father and set the date.
No, we'll have to see what's in rehearsal. There'll be a lot of other first nights in October.
Hello, Mortimer!
How are you, Mr. President?
Bully, thank you, just bully! What news have you brought me?
Just this. The country is squarely behind you.
Yes, I know. Isn't it wonderful? Well, goodbye. Goodbye.
Where are you off to, Teddy?
Panama.
Panama's the seller. He digs locks for the canal down there.
You're very sweet with him. He's very fond of you.
Well, Teddy always was my favorite brother.
Favorite? There were more of you.
There's another brother, Jonathon.
I've never heard of him before. Your aunts have never mentioned him.
No, we don't like to talk about Jonathon. He left Brooklyn very early, by request. He was the kind of boy who liked to cut worms in two, with his teeth.
Whatever became of him?
I don't know. He wanted to become a surgeon like grandfather, but he wouldn't go to medical school first, and his practice got him into trouble.
Aren't you two going to be late for the theater?
We're skipping dinner. We won't have to start for half an hour.
Well then, I'll leave you two alone together again.
Don't bother, darling. I was just going over to talk to Father. He likes to pray over me a little before we go out.
If the prayer isn't too long, I'll have time to leave you beside the still waters.
Mortimer, that's the first time I've heard you quote the Bible. We knew Elaine would be a good influence on you.
Oh, by the way, I'm going to marry her.
What? Oh, darling. Oh, Martha. Oh, Martha. I've got the most wonderful news. Mortimer and Elaine are to be married.
Married? Oh, Mortimer.
Oh, we hoped it would happen just like this.
Elaine must be the happiest girl in the world.
Happy? Just look at her leaping over those gravestones. Say, what's that?
What's what, dear?
That statue there? There's a horned Nina Cornina.
Oh, no, dear. That's Emma B. Stout, ascending to heaven.
No, on Mrs. Stout's left ear. That's a right-crested swallow. I've only seen one of those before in my life.
Well, I don't know how you can be thinking about a bird now. What with Elaine and the engagement and everything.
A vanishing species. Thoreau was very fond of them. Oh, by the way, I left a large envelope around here last week. It was one of my chapters on Thoreau. Have you seen it?
No, but if you left it here, it must be here somewhere.
When are you to be married? What are your plans? There must be something more you can tell us about Elaine.
Elaine? Oh, Elaine thought it was brilliant.
What was, dear?
A chapter on Thoreau.
I think we ought to drink to your happiness. We must celebrate. Martha, isn't there some of that Lady Baltimore cake left?
Yes.
And I'll open a bottle of wine.
Oh, and to think it happened in this very room.
Where could I have put that?
With your fiancé sitting beside you tonight, I do hope the play can be something you can enjoy for once. Maybe something romantic. What's the name of it?
Murder Will Out.
Oh, dear.
When the curtain goes up, the first thing you'll see will be a dead body. Aunt Abby?
Yes, dear.
You were going to make plans for Teddy to go to that sanitarium, Happy Dale?
Yes, dear. It's all arranged. Dr. Harper was here today and brought the papers for him to sign. Here they are.
You've got to sign them right away.
That's what Dr. Harper thinks. Then there won't be any legal difficulties after we pass on.
He's going to sign them this minute. He's down in the cellar. Get him up here right away.
There's no such hurry as that.
No, when Teddy starts working on the canal, you can't get his mind on anything else.
He's got to go to Happy Dale now, tonight.
Mortimer, how can you say such a thing? Why, as long as we live, we'll never be separated from Teddy.
Darlings, I have some frightfully shocking news for you. Now we've all got to try to keep our heads. You know how we've all sort of humored Teddy because we thought he was harmless?
Why, he is harmless.
He was harmless. That's why he has to go to Happy Dale. Why he has to be confined.
Mortimer, why have you suddenly turned against Teddy, your own brother?
Well, you've got to know sometime. It might as well be now. Teddy's killed a man.
No.
There's a body in the window seat.
Yes, dear, we know.
You know?
Yes, and it has nothing to do with Teddy.
Now, Mortimer, just forget you saw the gentleman, forget you ever saw him.
Forget?
Never dreamed you'd peek.
Who is he?
Oh, his name's Hoskins, Adam Hoskins. That's really all I know about him. Oh, except that he's a Methodist.
That's all you know about him. Well, what is he doing here? What happened to him?
He died.
Aunt Martha, men don't just get into window seats and die.
No, he died first.
Well, how?
Mortimer, don't be so inquisitive. The gentleman died because he drank some wine with poison in it.
How did poison get in the wine?
Well, we put it in wine because it's less noticeable. When it's in tea, it has a distinct odor.
Yes, and I put Mr. Hoskins in the window seat because Dr. Harper was coming.
You knew what you'd done. You didn't want Dr. Harper to see the body.
Well, not at tea. That wouldn't have been very nice. Now, Mortimer, you know the whole thing now. Just forget about it.
And don't you tell Elaine. Oh, Abby, while I was out, I dropped in on Mrs. Schultz. She's doing much better, but she'd like us to take Junior to the movies again.
Oh, well, we must do that tomorrow or the next day.
Oh, yes, but this time we'll go where we want to go. Junior's not taking me to another one of those scary pictures.
City desk. Hello, Al. Do you know who this is? That's right. Say, Al, when I left the office, I told you where I was going, remember? Well, what did I say? Uh-huh. Well, it would take me about half an hour to get to Brooklyn. What time have you got? That's right. I must be here. And Martha and Abby, come in here. we going to do? What are we going to do?
What are we going to do about what, dear?
There's a body in there!
Yes, Mr. Hoskins.
Well, I can't turn around to the police. What am I going to do?
Well, for one thing, dear, stop being so excited.
And for pity's sake, stop worrying. We told you to forget the whole thing.
Forget! My dear Aunt Abby can't make you understand that something has to be done.
Now, Mortimer, you behave yourself. You are too old to be flying off the handle like this.
But Mr. Hoskins!
Hoskins, dear.
Well, whatever his name is, we can't just leave him there.
We don't intend to, dear.
No, Teddy's downstairs now digging the lock.
You're going to bury Mr. Hotchkiss in the cellar?
Why, yes, dear. That's what we did with the others.
You can't bury Mr. Others?
The other gentleman.
When you say others, do you mean others? More than one others?
Yes, dear, let me see. Oh, this makes 11.
No, dear, this makes 12.
Oh, no, dear, I think you're wrong. This is only 11.
No, dear, I remember because it occurred to me when Mr. Hoskins first came in that he would make just an even dozen.
Well, you really shouldn't count the first one.
Well, I count the first one, so that makes it 12.
Hello? Hello? Oh, hello, my, it's good to hear your voice.
Well, anyway, they're all down in the cellar now.
Oh, well, I'm sober as a lark. I just called you because I'm feeling a little parental. You wouldn't know, Al. Listen, I'm glad you called. Get hold of George. He's got to cover that play tonight. I can't make it. No, Al, you're wrong. I'll tell you all about it tomorrow. Well, George has got to cover that play tonight. This is my department, isn't it? You get a hold of George. Let's see. Where were we? 12!
Yes, well, Abby thinks we ought to count the first one, and that makes 12.
Right. Well, who was the first one?
Mr. Midgley. He was a Baptist.
Of course, I still think we can't count him because he just died.
Martha means without any of our help. You see, Mr. Midgley came here looking for a room.
Oh, which was right after you moved to New York.
And it didn't seem right for that lovely room to be going to waste when there were so many people who needed it.
He was such a lonely old man.
All his kith and kin were dead, and it left him so forlorn and unhappy.
We felt so sorry for him.
And when his heart attack came, and he sat dead in that chair, looking so peaceful. Oh, remember, Martha? We decided then and there that if we could help other lonely old men to that same peace, we would.
He dropped dead right in that chair? How awful for you.
Oh, no, dear. Why? Oh, it was rather like old times. Your grandfather always used to have a cadaver or two around the house. You see, Teddy had been digging in the Panama Canal, and he thought Mr. Midgley was a yellow fever victim.
That meant he had to be buried immediately.
So we all took him down to Panama and buried him in a loft. And that's why we told you not to worry about it, because we already know what's to be done.
That's all this started? That man coming in here and dropping dead?
Of course, we knew we couldn't depend on that happening again, so...
You remember those jars of poison that have been on the shelves in Grandfather's laboratory all these years?
You know your Aunt Martha's knack for mixing things. You've eaten enough of her piccalilli.
Well, dear, for a gallon of elderberry wine, I take a teaspoonful of arsenic, half a teaspoonful of strychnine, and just a pinch of cyanide.
Isn't that quite a kick?
Oh, yes. One of our gentlemen even found the time to say, how delicious.
I'd better get things started in the kitchen.
I'll come and help you, dear. I feel so much better now. Well, you have to wait for Elaine, don't you? How happy you... I'll leave you alone with your thoughts, dear.
I was excited, so I told him about us. And that made it hard for me to get away. But listen, darling, he's not going to wait up for me tonight.
You run along home, Elaine. I'll call you up tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
You know I always call you up every day or two.
But we're going to the theater.
No, we're not.
Well, why not?
Elaine, something's come up.
What, dear? Mortimer, have you lost your job?
No, I haven't lost my job. I'm just not covering that play tonight. Now you run along home, Elaine.
Well, certainly you can tell me.
No, I can't.
Well, if we're going to be married...
Married?
Have you forgotten that not 15 minutes ago you proposed to me?
I did? Oh, yes. Well, as far as I know, that's still on. Run along home, Elaine. I've got to do something.
You can't propose to me 1 minute and then throw me out of the house the next.
I'm throwing you out of the house, Elaine. No, but you get out of here.
No, not until I've had some kind of explanation.
Elaine! Hello? Oh, hello, Al. Hold on a minute, will you? All right, it's important. But wait a minute, can't it? Hold on. Listen, Elaine, you're a sweet girl, and I love you. But I have something on my mind right now, and I want you to go home and wait until I call you.
Don't try to be masterful.
When we're married and I have problems to face, I hope you're less tedious and uninspired.
And when we're married, if we're married, I hope I find you adequate.
Elaine! Hello, Al? Hello, Al?
That's the doorbell, dear, not the telephone. How do you do? Come in.
I understand you have a room to rent.
Oh, yes, won't you step in?
Are you the lady of the house?
Yes, I'm Miss Brewster, and this is my sister, another Miss Brewster.
My name is Gibbs.
Oh, won't you sit down? I'm sorry, we were just setting the table for dinner.
Hello, city desk. Let me talk to Al again. Al, city desk. What? Oh, I'm sorry, wrong number.
May I see the room?
Why don't we sit down and get acquainted first?
That won't do much good if I don't like the room.
Is Brooklyn your home?
Haven't got a home. I live in a hotel. Don't like it.
Hello, city desk.
But are your family Brooklyn people?
I haven't got any family.
All alone in the world?
Yep.
Martha, you've come to just the right place. Do sit down.
Hello, Al. North, we got cut off. Listen, I can't cover that plate tonight. That's all there is to it. I can't.
What church do you go to? There's an Episcopal church practically next door.
I'm Presbyterian. Well, used to be.
What's George doing in Bermuda? Well, of course I told him he could go to Bermuda. Bermuda. It's my department, isn't it? Well, who else is around the office?
Is there always this much noise?
He doesn't live with us.
There's got to be somebody around the place. Look, Al, the office boy. You know, the right one? The one we don't like. You look around the office. I'll hold on.
May I see the room?
Oh, it's right upstairs. Oh, why don't you try a glass of our wine first?
Never touch it.
It's elderberry wine. We make it ourselves.
Elderberry wine? I haven't had that since I was a boy. Thank you.
Well, look, Al, there's got to be some printers around the place. The fellow who sent my copy, he ought to know about what I'd write. His name is Joe. He's the third machine from the left. But Al, he might turn out to be another Burns Mantle.
Do you grow your own elderberry bushes?
No, but the cemetery is full of them.
No, I'm not drinking, but I'm going to start now.
Do you serve any meals?
We might, but just see if you like our wine first. Whoever wants that.
Get out of here! Go, just go! You don't care about your bag! You want to be poisoned?
Now you've spoiled everything.
You can't do things like that! I don't know how to explain this to you. It's not only against the law, it's wrong. People wouldn't understand. wouldn't understand.
Abby, we shouldn't have told Mortimer.
What I mean is, well, this has developed into a very bad habit.
Mortimer, we don't try to stop you from doing the things you like to do. I don't see why you should try to stop us.
Hello? All right, I'll see the first act and I'll pan the hell out of it. But look, Al, you gotta do something for me. Get hold of O'Brien, our lawyer, the head of our legal department. Have him meet me at the theater. Now don't let me down. Okay, I'm starting now. Listen, I've got to go to the theater. I can't get out of it. But before I go, will you promise me something?
We'd have to know what it was first.
I love you very much, and I know you love me. You know I'd do anything in the world for you, and I want you to do just this little thing for me.
What do you want us to do?
Don't do anything. I mean, don't do anything. Don't let anyone else in the house and leave Mr. Hoskins where he is.
Why?
I want time to think. And I've got quite a little to think about. You know I wouldn't want anything to happen to you.
What on earth could happen to us?
Anyway, you'll do this for me, won't you?
Well, we were planning on holding services before dinner.
Services?
Why, you don't think we'd bury Mr. Hoskins without a full Methodist funeral? Why, he was a Methodist.
I can't wait until I get back.
Oh, then you could join us?
Yes, yes.
Oh, Mortimer, you'll enjoy the services, especially the hymns. Oh, Martha, remember how beautifully Mortimer used to sing before his voice changed?
Remember, you're not going to let anyone else in the house while I'm gone.
Oh,
Well,
Martha, we can do that now that he's cooperating with us. All right, Mortimer.
Have you got some paper? I'll be back just as soon as I can. There's a man I've got to see.
Stationery. Will this do?
That'll do fine. I can save time if I write my review on the way to the theater.
Now, Mortimer seems quite like himself today. Well, that's only natural. I think I know why.
why?
He's just become engaged to be married. I guess that always makes a man nervous.
Well, I'm so happy for him. And their honeymoon ought to give him a real vacation. I don't think he got much rest this summer.
At least he didn't go kiting to China or Spain or something.
I could never understand why he wanted to go to those places.
Well, I think to Mortimer, the theater has always seemed pretty small potatoes. Mortimer needs something big to criticize. Something like the human race.
Abby, if Mortimer's coming back for the funeral, we'll need another hymnal. There's one in my room.
Oh, Martha, it really is my turn to read the services, but since you weren't here when Mr. Hoskins came, I'll let you do it.
That's so kind. Are you sure?
It's only fair.
Oh, think I'll wear my black bombazine and mother's old brooch. Could that be?
I don't know. Mortimer said not to let anyone in the house.
Oh, look. It's two men, and I've never seen them before.
Are you sure? Let me look.
There's a car at the curb. They must have come in that. Do you recognize them?
They're strangers to me.
We'll just have to pretend we're not at home.
Come in, Doctor. This is the home of my youth. As a boy, I couldn't wait to escape from this place. Now I can't wait to escape back into it.
Yeah, Johnny. It's a fine hideout.
The family must still live here. There's something so unmistakably Brewster about the Brewsters. I hope there's a fatted calf awaiting the return of the prodigal.
Yeah, Johnny, I'm hungry. Oh, look, Johnny, drinks.
As though we were expected. A good omen.
Who are you? What are you doing here?
Why, Aunt Abby. Aunt Martha. It's Jonathan.
Oh, no, you're not. You are nothing like Jonathan, so don't pretend you are. You just get out of here.
And this is Dr. Einstein.
And he's not Dr. Einstein either.
Not Dr. Albert Einstein, Dr. Herman Einstein.
Who are you? You're not our nephew, Jonathon.
I see you're still wearing this lovely necklace Grandma Brewster bought in England. And you, Aunt Martha. Still the high collar to hide the scar where grandfather's acid burned you?
His voice is like Jonathon's.
Have you been in an accident?
No. My case. Dr. Einstein did that to me. He's a plastic surgeon. He changes people's faces.
But I've seen that face. Abby, remember when we took the little Schultz boy to the movies and I was so terrified? It was that face.
Easy, Johnny. Don't worry, ladies. You see, the last 5 years, I give Johnny 3 new faces. I give him another one right away. You see, the last face, well, I see the picture too just before I operate. And I was intoxicated.
Are you see what you've done to me? Even my own family.
Johnny, you're home in this lovely house. How often he tells me about Brooklyn, about this house, about his lovely aunt. They know it's you, Johnny. You know it's Jonathon. Speak to him. Tell him so.
Well, Jonathon, it's been a long time. What have you been doing all these years?
Yes, Jonathon, where have you been?
Oh, England, South Africa, and the last 5 years, Chicago. Dr. Einstein and I were in business together.
Oh, we were in Chicago for the World's Fair.
Yes, we found Chicago awfully warm.
Yeah, it's got too hot for us too.
Well, honestly, it's wonderful to be back in Brooklyn again. And you, Abby, Martha, just as I remembered you. Sweet, charming, hospitable. And dear Teddy, did he get into politics? My brother, Doctor, was determined to become president.
Oh, Teddy's fine, just fine, and Mortimer's doing well too.
Oh, I know about Mortimer. I've seen his face at the head of his column. He's evidently fulfilled the promise of his early nasty nature.
We're very fond of Mortimer.
Well, Jonathon, it was nice for you to come visit us.
Bless you, Aunt Martha. It's wonderful to be home again.
Well, we mustn't let what's on the stove boil over.
If you'll excuse us a minute. Unless you have to be going somewhere.
Well, Johnny, where do we go from here? We got to think fast. The police have got pictures of that face. I got to operate on you right away. Got to find a place for that. We need to find a place for Mr. Spinarzo too.
Don't waste any worry on that rat.
But Johnny, we got a hot stiff on our hands.
Forget Spinalza.
You can't just leave a dead body on the rumble seat. Oh, you shouldn't have killed him, Johnny. He was a nice fellow. He gives us a lift. Then what happened?
He said I looked like Boris Karloff. That's your work, Doctor. You did that to me.
Now, Johnny, we find a place somewhere. I get you quick.
Tonight.
Well, Johnny, not tonight. I'm hungry. I'm weak.
Jonathan, we're glad you remembered us and took the time to come in and say hello. But you were never happy living in this house, and we were never happy while you were in it. So we've just come to say goodbye.
My dear Aunt Abby, I can't say that your feelings toward me come as a surprise. I've spent a great many years regretting the many heartaches I must have given you as a boy.
You were quite a trial to us, Jonathan.
But my great disappointment is for Dr. Einstein. You see, I promised him that no matter how rushed we were coming through Brooklyn, we wouldn't miss one of Aunt Martha's home-cooked dinners.
Oh, well, Well, I'm afraid there wouldn't be enough.
Oh, Abby, it's a pretty good-sized pot roast.
Hurry it along, then. Oh, Jonathan, if you want to freshen up, why don't you use the washroom in Grandfather's old laboratory?
Is that still there?
Yes, just as he left it. Well, I'll help Martha get started since we're all in such a hurry.
Well, we get some meal anyway.
Grandfather's laboratory. And just as it was. Doctor, a perfect operating room.
Too bad we can't use it.
After you've finished with me, why, we could make a fortune here. That large ward in the attic, 10 beds, Doctor, and Brooklyn is crying for your talents.
Why work yourself up, Johnny? Anyway, for Brooklyn, I think we're a year too late.
You don't know this place, Doctor. Practically everyone in Brooklyn needs a new face.
Yeah, but so many of the old faces are locked up.
Very small percentage. And the boys in Brooklyn are famous for paying generously to stay out of jail.
Take it easy, Johnny. Your aunts, they don't want us here.
We're staying for dinner, aren't we?
Yeah, but after that?
Leave it to me, Doctor. I'll handle it.
Oh,
Why, this place will be our headquarters for years.
that would be beautiful. Just think, Johnny, this nice, quiet house. Those sweet hands of yours. Oh, I love them already. I get the bags, yeah?
No! We must wait till we are invited.
But you just
We'll be invited.
And if they say no?
Doctor, to helpless old women.
I see. It's like comes true, a beautiful dream. Only, I hope I'm not dreaming. It's so peaceful.
Yes, Doctor, that's what makes this place so perfect for us. It's so